know the mobility implementation.
Reference your business.
Kelly's not on it. That's a problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're looking to get this meeting started. I'll start with a land acknowledgement. So the City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats of communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact icsc@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. So this is the first meeting of the Infrastructure and Corporate Services Committee. Here in chambers, there is myself, Councillor Pribble, Councillor Hopkins, and Councillor Frank. And online, we have Councillor Van Meerbergen, and that is the composition of the committee with the mayor as ex officio, but not in attendance today. I'll go to item 1, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Okay, seeing none. We'll go to item 2, consent. I've not been asked to pull anything at this time, but is there anything that you'd like to deal with separately? Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to vote on 2.7 separately, please.
Thank you. Any other items? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to put everything from 2.1 to 2.10, of course, leaving out 2.7 on the floor. Got Councillor Frank. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Van Meerbergen. Okay, thank you. With that on the floor, I'll look for some comment. And I'll go to Councillor Pribble first for his items. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair to the staff. I have 2 questions. The first one is for 2.2. There is an increase of 12.4%, and I was just wondering how that increase was determined, the negotiations with the Hydro. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the increase is basically accumulation of 5 years worth of inflation. So playing catch up on that because the previous agreement was for 5 years at a fixed cost. With the hydro costs, they do have to recoup actual costs from us to be in compliance with the Ontario Energy Board. So that is what the costs and the increase are based on.
Thank you, Ms. Ramley. We'll go back to Councillor Pribble.
Thank you for that answer. And the second question I have is 2.8, the temporary borrowing. And I know we do it on an annual basis as a precautionary measure. And I just was asking, I would like to ask if it was used or recently or how far back these funds, if they have ever been used. Thank you.
Go ahead, staff.
Thank you, through the chair. So the councillor is correct. This is an entirely precautionary measure. So the temporary borrowing is composed of 2 parts. $2 million related to our corporate purchasing card program. That is obviously used regularly to support ongoing city operations. The other component is up to $100 million of a potential line of credit should we need it. We, though, have never, in fact, drawn on that line of credit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Back to Councillor Pribble.
Thank you. No more questions on the consent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Frank, go ahead.
Thank you. I did have a couple questions and some back and forth with staff regarding 2.1, the Queens Bridge rehabilitation. And I just want to follow up because I would be very interested in seeing it painted and not beige color. So I was just curious as to what that process looks like and when can public give input onto any aesthetic design work.
I'll go to Mr. McCrae.
Thank you for your interest in the project through the chair. The project team certainly recognizes the importance of the bridge being a central feature near the forks of the Thames. So different railing options are going to be investigated through the detailed design to figure out how to improve both the aesthetics of the bridge and the views to the river. So that work will happen in this design assignment, and a public meeting will be held once some of those details are sorted out and to receive public feedback at that time.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, and a quick follow-up. So just from my understanding, is paint color something that the community can have input on, or is that a largely like staff decision? I'm just curious as to, regarding the engagement, if that's something that residents could suggest.
Mr. McCray?
Through the chair, yeah, the first steps in the design process would be determining what kind of barrier/railing system can be used, and that considers both the aesthetics and also the requirements of the bridge code. So that limits our options. And so the material types could be metals, or it could also be concrete. And so that's sort of the technical work needs to answer that question. And then once we figure out what the material is, we'll have a better idea of aesthetic treatments, and certainly at that point, input from the public would be able to be received and inform the final decisions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do have a quick question through you to staff on 2.10, which is the Canada Life Place facility license agreement. And it's really good to read how successful the London Knights have been and how committed they are to our community through the past 20 years. And now as we look into renewing the agreement, I would like to have a better understanding of the risks that we, or potential risks that we may have in the agreement if things aren't successful, or is that not really a consideration? The agreement sort of sets out the rules, and regardless of how things move forward in the next 15 years, I'd like to have a better understanding where we are. Thank you.
I'll go to Ms. Bourbon.
Thank you, through the chair. So the City of London is a party to the agreements to create Canada Life Place that was set up between multiple parties. So one of the key parts of that agreement are that OVG 360 operates the building on behalf of the partners. So based on how the venue does is where the city's risk ultimately comes in that we have a share of the proceeds of the net cash flow at the end of the day. Obviously, the success of the London Knights is a very significant part of the success of Canada Life Place, and ultimately translates into the return that the City of London receives each and every year. So from that perspective, the city's risk is the success of the venue and the proceeds ultimately that are received each and every year. So if you recall, when council had approved the expansion to Canada Life Place, there were a number of things that are there to increase the city's as well as all of the other partners' success in the venue that would generate additional profits, and some of that work that we did in terms of return on investment, et cetera. The London Knights being part of that venue is a large contributor, as well as all the other events that happen throughout the year. So from a risk perspective regarding the consent agreement, there's very little risk from the city to proceed. Ultimately, the way this works is the city is not a party to this agreement. It is negotiated on behalf of the venue through the operator, which is OVG 360. So that has been completed, but as part of the broader, because it is a new start to that term, the City of London is required through the initial agreement to provide its consent, although that cannot unreasonably be withheld. So certainly the risk of not providing consent, I think, would be significant in terms of how the venue would continue to operate. But that's certainly how it plays into the broader risk factor for the City of London.
Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate that clarification. Sometimes when you read the reports, it's not as clear. So thank you for that. And really, I think we're so fortunate in this city to get such great support from Londoners for the Canada Life venue and our London Knights as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll go back to Councillor Purple.
Just a comment regarding this point. What an anchor tenant. We are so fortunate to have them, and they have year-on-year successful winning franchise that sell out almost every single game. Very positive story for downtown, very positive story for City of London. Thank you all.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up for these items in front of us, so I'll look to call the vote, and this is everything but 2.7.
Councillor Van Meerbergen. Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, so we have no scheduled items, no items for direction. We're going back to item 2.7, looking for a mover and a seconder. We've got Councillor Pribble and then Councillor Hopkins, and any comments on this item? Councillor Pribble, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair, to the staff. So the way I read it, it's for phase 2, and phase 2 is between Baseline and Southdale. If you can please confirm that. And the other thing is, it says total 45 properties, and this is for 10 remaining ones. So I just want to clarify that the 35 have been already acquired. We have only 10 remaining, and it is for the area Wellington between Baseline and Southdale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Just a second.
Sorry, thank you. Through the chair, I can confirm that we have purchased 35 of the properties of the 45, and there are 10 outstanding. We're in negotiations with all 10, but at this stage, we'd like to initiate the process to apply for the expropriation in order to meet timelines into next year. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Dan to speak to the first question, please.
Thank you, Ms. Dan.
Yes, and through the chair, the limits for Wellington Gateway Phase 2 are from Watson Street to Wilkins, which is just south of Commissioners. So it's a long stretch. The properties that we're speaking to today are the full buyout properties. So those are the ones that are impacted, and it's important that we move those forward so that any demolitions can occur in advance of construction in 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Pripp.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I do have a quick question. I was just driving along Wellington this morning and really pleased to see the project moving forward. Given that we're purchasing 45 homes, just wondering, I know we talk about the housing situation, the need for housing in our city. Are these properties, once they are purchased, are we able to rent them out, or are the owners able to stay until they come down? I just want to know what we're doing with these properties.
Thank you. Mr. Warner?
Yes, through the chair, thank you for the question. So these properties are fully impacted, which means the actual new construction will affect the actual structures. So as a result, they will have to be removed. There's a demolition approval process. In some of the instances where we're able to do a lease back to the property owners for a period of time, we've been doing that for the last few years, and allowing the property owners appropriate time to look for relocation properties. So we are working with them on those timelines, but essentially all 45 properties will have to be removed. And then in addition to that, there are other properties that are impacted on a partial acquisition basis, and we're still proceeding with about 53 of those partial acquisitions as well. Thank you.
Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, I hear that we are being very flexible and allowing the property owners to find other accommodations and really not, I just want to make sure there is that flexibility, that we're not having them go out and then we have empty houses sort of sitting on the street. But I really appreciate the flexibility that we're giving them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional? Oh, Councillor Purple, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. And 35 properties, now additional 10 properties, all within the projected budget? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warner?
Yes, through the chair, yes, within the projected budget.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any further questions, so I will look to call the vote on 2.7.
Closing the vote, motion carries 4-1.
Thank you. We're on item 6, which is confidential. I'll look to go into closed session with a motion from Councillor Hopkins and Councillor Frank, and that will open for you in the system. Reasons that are listed in our agenda.
Closing the vote, motion carries 5-0.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're back. I'll ask Councillor Frank to report out from closed session.
Thank you. I'm happy to announce that progress has been made for the items for which we went in camera for.
Thank you. And with that, we're on item 7, adjournment. Looking for a mover and seconder, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Frank, and with that, a hand vote. All in favor?
Motion carries.